So the garlic has started flowering, and several have sent up their garlic scapes. These are delicious in the kitchen, a little bit more subtle and sweeter than the garlic clove. Last year I fermented a lot of them, like you saw in a different video. I'll probably do that again this year with some of them. But the other advantage of harvesting them is that it forces more of the plant's energy away from this flower and back into the bulb in the ground. So if you want a good garlic harvest, it's a pretty good idea to harvest these, and mutual benefits. So I'm going to cut a few of these off. Not all of them are ready, so like this one I think could use a few more days to develop. But the ones that are longer and more curled are probably ready to go. So that's a pretty good first round haul. Probably about this many on there still. So not all garlic has a scape. If it's soft neck, it usually doesn't have a scape, which is why all the plants don't have them. But this will be a tasty little bonus spring snack. Good afternoon from the boulangerie. So I've been harvesting these garlic scapes for the last week, and as you can see, have quite a few that I ended up with. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do some fermentation on these, and I also harvested a lot of mustard greens, and I want to experiment with that too. But we'll do this first. So I've rinsed them. I think I'm going to probably cut a few of them down, just so they're more manageable inside the jar. But we're going to basically use the same recipe as we did last year, which is some peppercorn, some fennel, and some salt. And a pepper, perhaps, maybe like a dried cayenne pepper. I love how these all look. I think that's probably good. I'll leave it there for now. So then we'll just start filling this up. I don't think there needs to be any rhyme or reason to this. This is a considerably larger amount than I got last year, which is awesome. I believe I just used a quart jar last time. I'm going to try to kind of coil these around the jar just so they're all submerged when I fill it up. Okay, it's a nice looking jar full of Scapes. This will be the second year I've fermented garlic Scapes, and it's such a nice, when they're fermented, and they retain their texture, they retain their garlic bite, but they're a little bit sour. And they last all year, which is kind of magical to have Scapes on hand all year. Alright, so let's season this. As usual, salt is very important. That'll be the first thing I put in here. Just controls the ferment. And we won't be drinking the brine probably, so it seems a lot saltier than it actually is. Do a teaspoon of fennel. Approximately. Throw these 2 dried cayennes in there to also spice it up a little bit. Last year I used a lemon drop pepper, but I don't have any of those handy right now. Then we add the water. This has been heated to about 80 degrees. Pretty much everything is being held together underwater, so I don't think I have to weight this down. I'll just have to watch it. But that's it. Close this jar. By the way, these clamp top jars are really handy for fermentation because they you may have to loosen the jar lid a little bit just by bending these. But once you do that, you can close it and it will it will off-gas itself. So it's kind of a perfect fermentation vessel. There it is. Ferment 1 done. Alright, next I'm going to try fermenting mustard greens, and I don't know how this is going to turn out. Basically going to go with as if I was making sauerkraut. I don't know if it'll turn out the same because mustard greens aren't quite as tough as cabbage leaves, which is what you'd make sauerkraut out of. So I'm not sure how well they'll take to fermenting, but that's what I'm curious about is will I get a kind of mustard kraut, or will I get some kind of some paste, kind of like actual mustard? That's what I'm looking to answer here, because I just have so many mustard greens from that cover crop, and they just had to get thinned out because of the peppers. So there's more in the garden still, and I got this much today. So we're going to start by just chopping these up a little bit and salting them in this bowl. These are strong. You can smell the mustard already. They're still wet from washing them. I'm not too worried about that because I'm hopefully not going to add any water for the brine on these. I'm just going to let their juices and whatever water's on them become their brine. So now that we have some in the bowl here, I'm going to start salting, because we want each layer to be pretty well coated with salt. And I think this is a situation where I'm not going to really measure. Just going to kind of pour in enough to coat. And kind of mix it. And as this sits, the salt will start drawing moisture out of the leaves, and that's what we want. It'll all eventually go into a jar. These are just beautiful greens though. So I hope this works out and is not a failed experiment at the end. So that's it. As these start to wilt and lose their moisture, this will start filling up, which will allow the fermentation to begin. So we'll let that sit for a while and come back to it when it's ready. So this has been about a half hour and it's quite a bit of liquid built up at the bottom already. I'm not sure if you can see that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start putting it in the jar and just kind of mash it down as I go. This is almost the same process I would use for sauerkraut, as I said earlier. I also tasted a couple leaves, and they taste sufficiently salty to me. So that's going to be my measurement for this batch. Salt to taste. Excellent. And if you see how much liquid is in there, all from the greens. And I'm going to also dump this in there too. So that it's covered. Got it all in there. Which is excellent news. So I am going to weight this one down. And that water level will probably rise a little bit still. It's likely that it will overflow some, so I will put this in a little container so I don't have to worry about it leaking. So that concludes today's video on fermenting. I will update as these go, but we have the garlic scapes here, quite a few, and the fermented green mustard here, which is just mustard greens and salt, a few other spices in the garlic scapes. So really interested to see, I know how this is going to turn out, delicious, but I'm really interested to see how this is going to turn out. This could be a really cool way to use mustard greens that I haven't done before. Thanks for watching. Checking back in, it's been 8 days on these ferments, and you can see that the brine is getting very cloudy. This one did, this is the mustard greens, did in fact overflow, which is was expected, but also a good sign of the fermentation. So we open these up. Got some bubbles there on the top. It smells pretty good, like sour mustard greens at this point. So we'll see how it goes. And this one is very active. Very bubbly. Smells delicious. I'd say that both are going well. Just wanted to give an update.